Hello and welcome to CINEMATICON Ex Mortis. That's the podcast where we talk about horror movies. I'm your host, Kenny, and I'm here with...
Am I supposed to say my own name? Is that what that pause is for?
You're supposed to say.
Oh, okay, so that's why last time it sounded really wonky when you were like, Heather. And I was like, you definitely know my name. So what's this about?
Yeah, no, actually that time I just forgot. But
No, you didn't.
this time it was like an intentional, like a toss.
You're right.
That's what we call it
You
in the
wish.
business.
Okay. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So your name is Heather, am I right?
Yeah. Can you not? Yes. My name is Heather. Let's move on.
All right. So we've got that established out of the way. And today we're going to be talking about White Zombie. No, not Rob Zombie's band, the 1932 film with Bela Lugosi. So this is the namesake of the band. So Rob Zombie named his band after this movie, and that's because it's pretty awesome. It's directed by Victor Halperin and produced by his brother Edward Halperin. They were a sort of filmmaking team, kind of like the 1930s Coen brothers, only not very good. And it stars Bela Lugosi and Madge Bellamy and John Herron. It's an early talkie. So in 1932, sound had just sort of been fully implemented in Hollywood, starting in like 1928. So these films often don't have full musical scores. The sound can be a bit janky. This one actually has a good deal of music in it compared to some other early talkie horror films like Frankenstein and Dracula. It's also the first zombie movie ever made. The concept of zombies had just been introduced to the English-speaking world a few years earlier in William B. Seabrook's book about Haiti called The Magic Island. And it's also kind of interesting in that it's an independent film. So this wasn't made by RKO or Universal or Paramount, but it looks a lot like those films because it was shot largely on sets that were rented from Universal. So if you're a fan of the classic Universal monster movies, you might recognize some of the sets in this from those. And this was Heather's pick. So this is a film that you really like, Heather. What do you like about it?
Honestly, I feel like it's very visual for me. It's a lot different than most horror movies in the aspect that it's very pretty to look at. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So it also, I mean, like full disclosure here, once again, we're going to be spoiling everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe we should get started with a little plot summary so people know what's going on in this movie as we talk about it. Okay. So Neil, which is John Herron's character, meets Madeline, who is Madge Bellamy's character, in Haiti. Why are they going to Haiti? I'm not really sure. I mean, they're getting married, but why get married in Haiti? Maybe it's just like that's where they want to do their honeymoon. That's not too clear to me. But anyway, they meet in Haiti, and on the way over, Madeline has met a white Haitian planter named Beaumont, who convinces the couple to get married on his estate by promising to give Neil a job. In reality, Beaumont has fallen in love with Madeline and wants to get her away from Neil by sorcery if necessary. He obtains a potion from the local necromancer named Murder Legendre, that's Bela Lugosi, and when he fails to persuade Madeline to leave Neil for him, as he's walking her down the aisle, maybe some bad timing on his part, he uses it to put her into a death-like state. Beaumont and Murder then retrieve Madeline's now zombified body from a crypt and retreat to a Gothic castle in a deserted part of the island. Apparently there are these, amazing, 13th century Gothic castles in some parts of Haiti.
Sure, why not?
Neil, Madeline's fiancé, aided by a Christian missionary, gives chase, and that sort of, sets us up for the end of the film. Right, so that's what basically happens in the movie. Where were we?
You're asking me what I liked about it.
Yeah, things that you liked about it.
Well, I was thinking about it earlier today because I honestly, we watched it before, like many years ago, and then honestly, like I tried to show it to a friend of mine like a few years ago, and I was like, this is hella boring. I'm really sorry. I don't remember why I liked this movie. But then I thought, I'm going to give it another chance. And I, once again, really liked it. So I don't know what happened. There are parts that drag, but it has a happy ending, which is something that I realized today when I was thinking about it. And that's really rare for a horror movie.
Well, I feel like all these early horror films, like Dracula and Frankenstein and The Mummy, the monster tends to be destroyed at the end, and there's like a pair of young lovers who are now able to get married.
Well, what about in I Walked with a Zombie? Didn't it have a sad ending?
Maybe we should not spoil that just yet, and maybe return to that in a future episode, because that's another really interesting early zombie film.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting for modern viewers to go back to these early zombie movies, I Walked with a Zombie and White Zombie, because to us, these aren't really zombies in the sense that, zombies are everywhere in our culture now, but they're always a sort of different kind of zombie.
I have like some problems there. There's some inconsistencies. Do you know what I mean?
With
the zombie.
Terms of what this movie thinks a zombie is?
Movie, yeah, because there's a part where someone says something about corpses. I forget what the exact quote is, but someone is claiming that their corpses come to life or something, and then in the end, Madeline gets better. So she's clearly not a corpse. Otherwise, she would just die, like all the way die.
Yeah.
Like she, I mean, like there's a lot of aspects to like what these zombies are, because it's partially like medicinal, and then partially like there's magic involved.
Right. So the process to turn Madeline into a zombie is, first there's a sort of powder that needs to be either sprinkled into a drink or onto a flower that she smells. And I
guess she's like snorting it.
Yeah, so it's like you're ingesting it either, by drinking or snorting. And then after that, then Murder Legendre has to sort of creep around the house, and while he's looking in the window, he has to create a little voodoo doll out of wax
it's like a
of Madeline, and then sort of roast it, and that puts her into the trance. And I think that's something that is ambiguous in the film itself, like to what extent is this magic and to what extent is it scientific or some kind of chemical reaction that happens. And it's kind of interesting because in that way the film is sort of in touch with what zombies really originally were. So in modern day culture, we think of zombies as these cannibalistic, flesh-eating, mindless creatures that rise from the dead and then just wander around trying to eat people, perhaps eat their brains in particular. And that's not at all what zombies originally were like. So they're a real feature of Haitian folklore, in particular the sort of world of voodoo. And the idea is that a shaman can bring somebody back, a recently deceased person, from the grave, but minus their soul. And so now the person has to do everything the shaman commands the person to do. So I think in probably Seabrook's book from 1929 that introduced this concept of zombies to the English-speaking world, he maybe I haven't read the book, but he perhaps talks about how this superstition may have some basis in fact. But definitely the ethnobiologist Wade Davis later on went to Haiti and discovered the actual practice of zombification. And what it actually is I think it's called a tetrodotoxin. It's this special chemical compound that they get out of pufferfish, and you kind of like in the movie, you know, slip this into somebody's food and it causes them to go into a death-like coma. And then once the person is buried and perhaps has suffered some brain damage, then they're unearthed by the shaman and told, you know, your soul is gone. Now you have to do everything I say. And presumably this works some good amount of the time to where the person then feels that my soul is gone. I have to do what the shaman says. So it's this interesting thing where, you know, it's popularly believed to be a supernatural event, but it actually has some basis in reality as well.
Right.
And in the film, it's debated within the film, right? There are characters like the driver in the first scene who believe that these zombies are real, you know, corpses that have been reanimated through magic. And Bela Lugosi's character, Murder, certainly seems to think that he has a supernatural control over these people. But then there are characters like the missionary who says, no, it's not. It's some kind of, you know, chemical thing, and they just bury people who actually aren't dead and then dig them up.
Well, there's definitely something supernatural going on.
Yeah. There's also a moment where I felt like the movie was implying that Madeline was somehow psychically calling to Neil when he's outside of the castle. I don't know. I felt like she was kind of psychically calling to him, a la Jane Eyre.
I really didn't. I mean, there was that scene where he has like a vision of her, but isn't he like really drunk?
Yeah, that's a lot earlier. But yeah, that's another moment where it seems like there's some kind of supernatural, paranormal connection between those two characters. So after Madeline's been buried, Neil is getting hammered in a bar, and he starts seeing visions of her, and we see her as well. So that's another moment in the film where it's maybe leading us to question, like, what can we trust out of what we're being shown? Because when Neil is seeing a hallucination, we're seeing it too. So how much of the supernatural things that happen in the show are supposed to really be happening in the story?
I didn't give it that much thought. I just thought, like, this guy's shit-faced. Like, that sucks. You know, like, he's just, like, hyper depressed.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I mean, because he, like, stumbled all the way there to the castle to, like, see her. So that's something.
Yeah. He's kind of, like, next to useless as a hero in, like, a funny way.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't do, like, anything.
Yeah, like he doesn't know anything. He has to be told everything by other characters, like the missionary guy. He doesn't take much initiative, and then when they're getting close to the castle where he can finally, you know, be the white knight and rescue the damsel in distress, he's like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm just gonna lay here. I feel pretty bad, you know. My tummy hurts." And so he just kind of like lays there on the beach, and the missionary guy goes, until he has this, like, you know, second vision of Madeline. He sort of stumbles out of his cot and beats the missionary to the castle, but then, like, instantly collapses on a bench. So great job, Neil.
Yeah.
A for effort.
I mean, I don't know. I'd give him a B. Because of all the drinking.
Yeah.
If he was, like, really serious, then again, he didn't really know what he was doing or what was going on. And
yeah, at that point he thinks she's dead. So what can he do?
Right. I don't know. I just still feel like could have done a little better. Could have put. I mean, maybe he's just like he's just not very bright, and we don't really know anything about him. We're not like. I feel like they could have done more to make us care about him.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the things that goes into the negatives column for this movie. For me, is the characters in general. So Madeline and Neil have basically no personality. They're young, attractive white people, and that's pretty much it.
I guess that's supposed to be enough for you.
Yeah, and it's a problem that I've noticed across all these early talkie horror films. So like Frankenstein and Dracula have this problem too. I've just noticed this pattern where there's always a young couple who are usually engaged, or the girl is engaged to the like mad scientist character. So in Frankenstein, you've got Frankenstein's fiance, and then there's this dude who's like friend zoned, who wants to get with her. And so there's always like this male and female lead character, and they're supposedly the protagonists of the piece, but neither of them have anything interesting about them. And it's like, just make Frankenstein the protagonist. Like, what are you doing? Or give us something interesting, in these characters. Like, do something with these characters. Like in Dracula, the 1931 Dracula, Jonathan Harker is like the main hero of the book, I guess. And in the movie, they give all the interesting stuff to Renfield that Jonathan Harker does in like the first third of the novel. And then Jonathan Harker's just like, he's there. Like he barely does anything in the whole movie. So I don't know. That's something I think is a problem with this one as well. At least as a modern viewer watching a movie from, 80 years ago. The characters don't really give you much to root for or be interested in. The protagonist, anyway. The villains in these movies are great, of course.
Well, what we have here also is that you kind of are led to believe early on that what's his face, the guy who's trying to steal the guy's girl, what's his face?
Beaumont.
Okay, so we kind of think he's the bad guy because he's like trying to steal the fiance, and he's got this like sinister plan. Well, at first he kind of like resists the idea of zombifying Madeline.
Yeah.
But then he is kind of a bad guy,
Oh, yeah.
But then he changes his mind and he realizes the error of his ways and he wants to reverse it. So I feel like he's probably the most interesting character.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like a low bar for this movie, I think.
Yes, it is very low. It's very low.
He has an awesome death scene, though. Speaking of spoilers, that I really like the ending where he pushes Bela off the cliff and we see like the dummies fall into the shoreline.
Oh God, yeah. I immediately thought of you. This is what's sad because like we can't watch these movies at the same time right now. But I did think of you.
We could watch them at the same time, but it's more the same place.
We can't watch them.
That wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really complicated and annoying. But anyway, I thought about you when you see like the first body like almost hit the ground. It just looks so silly. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that it's a dummy.
I know, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just it's just like, I don't know. It's like, it makes you happy to watch it because it's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of going with it. You kind of have to accept with these older movies, there's going to be some pretty janky special effects. Like,
I know, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, like the bats in Dracula come to mind, where you can like see the strings as clear as day, and it's just a rubber bat like you would see in a Halloween store, and like cartoonish, like not even like anatomically realistic to what a bat looks like, and it's just flapping its wings like while moving, like not moving at all. It's just completely in place.
Yeah, it's great.
You just you see that
like
it's
part
like,
of the
well,
magic.
Yeah, it was a different time. Like maybe most people had never even heard of a bat. I don't know.
Like, what is that thing?
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, I guess that's probably what a bat looks like. They probably just hover in place. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
It's like a hummingbird, right? Yeah, they just like hover.
Yeah, that's what they look like in real life. Very exotic. Like, these are vampire bats. This is specific to that genus. Isn't murder? Isn't that a little bit of an on the nose kind of a name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so.
Just checking. Is it just me, or is just naming your bad guy straight up murder? Just a
and it gets confusing too, right? Because when we're talking about murder, we have to be like, okay, not
the man,
act of murdering
not
someone.
the action.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the ending is it's neat, but it doesn't feel earned in a way. Like And it kind of ties that back to what we were saying about Neil not really having a lot of agency or anything to him. I mean, in the end of the movie, he's just about to get destroyed by the zombies and nothing clever comes to save him. It's just the missionary guy has been hanging out and he just like hits Bela Lugosi over the head with like, I don't even know. He just conks him on the back of the head and then tells Neil like, hey, try running away from the zombies. and as he just runs out of the way and they all walk off the cliff. And then Beaumont, knocks Murder off the cliff and falls off himself. And so it just feels like the simplest way to resolve the plot that you could think of is just like throw everybody bad off the cliff and the good guys stay on.
Well, they did shoot this movie in 11 days, very quickly.
Yeah,
so
very low budget
like,
as well.
Right, it was like $50,000.
And despite our griping about the special effects, the film overall looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. That's like what I was saying in the beginning. Like, it's very pretty, and
yeah,
you want to keep watching it because it's just stunning.
And it's a very visual film. Like, I mean, it's an early talkie, like I said, and you get the sense that the filmmakers and the actors are people who have done a lot of work in silence, and it shows. Like there are whole scenes that have no dialogue, where everything's conveyed through the visuals. Like we were talking about the scene with Neil hallucinating Madeline. That to me is like a scene right out of a silent movie, right? Everything is being conveyed through his exaggerated gestures of being like, oh, come back, and her image appearing, and the way that scene is shot is really cool too. Like the staging of it. So like Neil is the only bar patron that we see. Everybody else is just represented by shadows on the wall. And there's a lot of cool work with light and shadow in this one. It's, I think, really influenced by German Expressionism, films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu. So I guess you can't really talk about White Zombie without talking about race, right? I mean, it's in the name, White Zombie.
And it also takes place on Haiti. So
yeah, takes place in Haiti. We're being presented for the first time on film with an aspect of Haitian folklore, the zombie. So you've got the sort of planter class that are like the white people represented by Beaumont, and then you have the black characters are like the laborers. And in particular, we see a mill that's being run by zombies who are black, who work for Murder. And so we sort of see this racial hierarchy in Haiti, where the black people are the workers. Also, like the driver of the carriage in the first scene. One thing that's kind of unfortunate about the film is it does have actors in blackface. I don't know if you noticed that. Oh my
God, really? No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird because it's not all. So like in the opening scene, the driver is played by an African American actor who's actually like a really interesting dude. So the driver's played by Clarence Muse, and according to Wikipedia, he is like a bunch of firsts. He was like the first African American actor to be billed as starring in a Hollywood movie. He was in the first Hollywood movie with an all African American cast. He was an early African American film director. So really interesting guy. And you've got him in the first scene. I think he does a great job. And then you've got the Haitian shaman character who appears to direct Neil and the missionary to Murder's castle, like partway through the film. Do you remember that guy?
No.
Yeah, so he's played by Dan Crimmins, who is a white guy in blackface. And and it's a really obnoxious performance. I'm surprised you don't remember, because he sort of like he acts as if he, like, I guess the character doesn't know English very well. And so he just speaks extremely slowly, like enunciates everything like Murder's castle is that way. Like he talks really slow. It's really a sort of grating performance.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of just expect that shit from old movies like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have been thinking, "Oh wow, this is obnoxious." It's just part of the territory. But next time I watch it, yeah, I'm definitely gonna notice.
Yeah. But I mean, on the other hand, there's something about the zombie as a folkloric creature that kind of has its own critique of this, racial class structure embedded in it, maybe because, the zombie is a person who has been deprived of all agency. They've had their soul taken away, and all they do is work. So there's that great scene in the mill where we see the zombies working the mill, and one of them falls into it and they just keep turning anyway. So he's getting crushed up with the, I don't know what it is, sugar or something. Really disturbing, probably influenced by the novel The Jungle from the early 20th century that described the meat industry in the United States, where it describes workers falling into the meat processing machines and just ending up as hot dogs and hamburgers.
No.
Yeah, so there's that scene, and it's hard not to read that scene as a criticism of that form of labor where people are just sort of reduced to instruments in this giant machine. I mean, you could read that through a racial lens, but then also, this is a film made in 1932. This is during the Great Depression. So, a lot of American workers were in that position of, being forced to work for starvation wages, doing these really rote mechanical tasks. So I don't know.
So you think that's some kind of social commentary?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's not even conscious on the part of the filmmakers, but I think this, the idea of the zombie and its appeal and the interest that it had at the time must have had something to do with the way that it's this sort of bizarro version of the social relations that actually existed.
Like people are watching this movie and they're like, "That's me."
Yeah, or like, and that's the horror of it, is like,
I'm a zombie.
Oh shit, like I recognize that, either that's me or that could be me if I lose my, better job that I have, or I know people that have a job like that, I know that exists in my society, and it sucks. The character Murder, played by Bela Lugosi, he's sort of the epitome of these oppressive systems, right? Like he is like the ultimate form of this oppressive upper class that takes away the workers' agency and uses people as just machines to produce profit for him. But at the same time, he also kind of represents the resentment of the oppressed and this sort of marginalized person. So Murder is somebody that nobody wants anything to do with. He lives far away from everybody else in this like scary part of the island that nobody goes to. And when Beaumont goes to seek his help, it's almost like when Antonio goes to get help from Shylock in The Merchant of Venice, Murder holds out his hand to shake his hand and Beaumont won't touch it, and we see that Murder intensely resents this. So he has this thing about him. He's got this chip on his shoulder about being somebody that nobody wants to associate with, who is marginalized and othered.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that weird that like the same character can represent sort of the scary parts of both sides of this societal divide? And in a way, Bela Lugosi as a casting choice is perfect then, right? Because he is white, but he's also foreign and weird, right? He's a Hungarian actor who could never lose his accent, and so he only was able to play monsters and villains in Hollywood movies because he was always sort of, coded as some foreign weirdo.
Yeah, and that's sad for Bela.
Yeah.
Like, really sad.
But cool for horror movies because he was in a lot of great classic horror movies.
Yes. Yes.
Anything else that you liked about the movie that you wanted to talk about?
I really like the way they did people's makeup. Like they did the actors' makeup in it. It also kind of is a callback to the silent era of films.
Definitely.
And that made it more creepy.
Yeah, I really liked Madeline's makeup, like when she gets zombified.
Exactly. Yes.
It really reminded me of a Tim Burton movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense. Totally. Tim Burton's also really heavily influenced by German Expressionism and these early horror movies. But she's got like a very pale face, and then she's got like eyeshadow. So there's a strong contrast.
Yeah, it gives it like that sunken in look, like, you know, it just looks like she's, I don't know, kind of dead, you know?
Yeah, it's corpse-like, but it's also, you know, she's also very beautiful, and the makeup doesn't obscure that, so it's like a doll-like kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she did do a really good job with that, like, blank stare. I found it interesting that she could still play the piano when she was a zombie.
Yeah, I mean, and that's our introduction to her as a zombie, is her performance on the piano. I put a note about that too, because I thought it was really interesting, because, you know, playing a musical instrument is not something we particularly associate with being robotic. You know, it's this emotional, creative thing. You know, like people even today say like, well, a computer will never write a sonnet. You know, a computer will never be able to write a, you know, beautiful piece of music. Of course, they already have. But it's something that we think of as being, you know, authentically human, or, you know, uniquely human.
Mm-hmm.
And
or even more human than human.
There's a reference for you White Zombie fans out there.
Yeah, that like mistakenly stumbled upon this podcast thinking it was about Rob Zombie.
Yeah. So if you stuck around until like an hour and a half into the podcast, you finally got a bone thrown to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's in a way it's weird, but it's also kind of fitting, right? Because you know, player pianos existed already in this time period. The piano, as far as instruments go, it's one of the more mechanical ones. One of the less expressive, right? When you hit the key, it just makes a particular note. I mean, it's louder or quieter depending on how hard you hit it, but that's all you get. So compared to something like a violin or a guitar, it's a less expressive instrument, and it's one that we know that a robot can play it. You know, you can program something to, you know, or set up a mechanism to play piano and sort of do a parlor trick with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like some muscle memory involved in playing an instrument, but the thing is like, what made her pick that song? You know what I mean? Like, there had to have been some kind of independent thought in order to pick that song, because no one told her to. So...
yeah, so maybe it's sort of representing that there is a part of her that's still in there, that's still salvageable.
Right, and I feel like they made other references to that too.
Well, sure, like when she's told to stab Neil and she stops. She stops herself. Yeah, so that's, you know, a motif, I would say, in a lot of like early fantasy and horror movies. Like, it reminds me of Metropolis. Have you seen that one? The Fritz Lang movie?
Yeah.
You know, you often have these characters who are kind of like RoboCop or something, where they're struggling with like their human side and their, you know, evil side, or the side of them that's mind controlled or something like that. There's a real fascination with the sort of duality of human nature in these movies. Right. And that's all the time we have for today's episode of Cinematicon Ex Mortis. Join us next time. We'll be talking about Tenebrae, the 1982 film by Dario Argento. See you then.